Welcome to CAD lesson number 2. In our first SolidWorks lesson, we learned the 4 main ways that SolidWorks takes a 2-dimensional drawing called a sketch and turns it into a 3-dimensional object. We also learned what kind of drawing errors in the 2-dimensional drawings can prevent SolidWorks from being able to turn them into 3-dimensional objects. We took a good look at these errors and how to find them and how to fix them. In lesson 2, we're going to build on the knowledge that we gained in lesson 1, and we're going to begin to draw our first solid object. But before we can progress with drawing, we need to have a look at the SolidWorks user interface and the commonly used controls and tools within it. So let's start by double-clicking on the SolidWorks icon. It'll take a little bit of time for it to go through its boot cycle and open up. It won't be enough time to go get a snack, but it's a good 10 or 20 seconds. You'll notice right away that SolidWorks opens to a landing page. It doesn't actually open to somewhere where you can draw. And you're going to see on the right-hand side a SolidWorks resources window, and there's lots of cool stuff in there like tutorials and student curriculum and instructor's curriculum, and there's tools available in the library. There's lots of neat stuff over there, but we won't be using that for now, so if you just click anywhere on the screen, that will disappear. So to get a drawing started, what we want to do is we want to go over to the drop-downs at the upper left of the screen. We're going to grab the one that says File, and we're going to drop down, and we're going to go New. We don't want Open because we don't want to work on an existing file. We want to start a new one from scratch. A pop-up will appear where you can choose to start a part file, an assembly file, or a drawing file. The drawing file is an old-school 3-view, front, side, top kind of thing. It's very great for putting dimensions on and things like that, but it's not often used in our CNC world, and it's also something that we can't directly draw in SolidWorks. We actually have to have a part, and we open the part within the 3-view and choose which of the views we want to use. So it's not the one we're going to use. In the middle is the assembly file, and of course an assembly requires parts. We don't have any parts yet, so the logical choice is that we're going to choose the parts file. To open a new part file, we can either double-click on the part icon, or we can single-click on it and then press on the button that says Open. A few seconds will pass while SolidWorks prepares, and then you're going to see a part drawing window open up. There are a few different elements that we need to understand here before we can do some effective drawing. The first of them is the main window area, the main white screen in front of you. There's an X, Y, Z down in the corner, in the left-hand corner. And what that means is that this is not actually a drawing plane or a 2-dimensional surface. It's actually a 3-dimensional space in which we draw our object. Centered at the top of this window, you will find a row of icons. These icons are the controls for how the part is viewed when it's in the viewing window. Working from left to right, the leftmost icon controls the size of the part and centers it. So if you click on that icon, it will bring the part up to the maximum size that fits in the window and center it nicely. The next one to the right, which is a magnifying glass with a dashed box around it, will zoom into an area that you've defined by drawing a box around it. The next one will take you to previous view. The one that looks like half of a magnet or a wheel cut in half is a cross-section tool. The next one is dynamic annotations toggle. We don't use that one very much. It's very powerful, but for a beginner it's kind of confusing, so we just kind of skip over it for now. The next one is very important. It's the cube. If you click on that, it will open up this see-through cube. Your object will be displayed in the middle of that cube, and whichever side of that cube, whatever facet of that cube that you click on, as you'll see in the preview to the upper right, will be rotated so that it's oriented such that you're looking normal to that face that you clicked on. It will reorient the part very accurately. You can click on the next icon, and it'll give you a drop down, and as you can see, you can turn the lines on and off. You can turn the shading, like how solid it is. You can turn it into a see-through object with just lines. You can have lines in the front but not the back. You can have dashed lines in the back, or you can have all the lines. So each of those kind of has its own utility, but most of the time we just leave it on solid with lines. The 4 remaining icons at the right aren't used very often, so we don't teach them in beginner lessons. It's just extra information and extra confusion that's not needed. Our next area of interest is the feature tree. That's the box on the left-hand side of the screen with a column of different information in it. This is where everything that is part of the drawing is recorded, right? So you can see at the top it's part 1. If we go and we file, save, and we save it as a name, you're going to see that the name of that part 1 is going to change to whatever your name is. So everything underneath part 1 is part of part 1. You can see that we're supplied with a front plane, a top plane, and a right plane, and an origin. We need these reference points because we need somewhere to draw on, and we need to know where our drawing is in space. As we add sketches and three-dimensional parts and subparts to our drawing, they will show up here as features. So each individual sketch that we start, whether we leave it as a sketch, a two-dimensional drawing, or we convert it into a three-dimensional drawing, it will show up in this feature tree, and we'll be able to access it and edit it and do work on it from the tree. Now we're going to move on to the tabs at the upper left of the drawing window. Features, Sketch, Evaluate, Dim Expert, SolidWorks Add-ins, and SolidWorks MDB. These tabs control what mode of operation the CAD is working in and which tools are available. As you can see, when the Features tab is selected, the three-dimensional drawing tools are open in the area above it. Along there is your toolbar. When Sketch is open, your two-dimensional drawing tools will be open. Evaluate has some evaluation tools. The other three are kind of advanced and we don't use them in beginner lessons, so we don't have to worry about those. We'll activate the Features tab, and then we can take a look at the tools available for features. You can see that most are grayed out right now, but you can also see that extruded, revolved, swept, lofted, and boundary are available in the first group of tools. Extruded cut, revolved cut, swept cut, lofted cut, and boundary cut are available in the next ones. So the most left group of tools adds materials. The middle group of tools removes materials, except for Hole Wizard. Hole Wizard is its own little special thing. It does threads and things like that. And then the next group of tools, the ones on the right, fillet, linear pattern, rib, draft, shell, wrap, intersect, mirror, those kind of do special operations and modifications. And that's the Features menu. Now click on the Sketch tab. This opens up the toolbox for the sketch tools. You can see that not many of these are grayed out because they only require one plane to work on, just like the two features that were available to us right now. So at the left of the tools is the Sketch. That will toggle the sketch into active or inactive mode. So it kind of enables the sketch mode. Next one is Smart Dimension. We'll use that one a lot, so we'll see that one a lot later. The next little box over is our drawing tools. These are what add lines to a drawing. The next partition to the right of the 2D drawing tools has trim entities, convert entities, offset entities, mirror entities. So these are all the special operations and modifications in two-dimensional mode. We won't worry about the ones at the far right for now. We'll deal with those when they're needed later on. The next tab over is the Evaluate tab. So when we open that up, our evaluation tools become open. Measure and mass properties are the ones that we use the most. We'll use measure when we want to get a dimension off of something without adding a dimension to it. Because remember, we talked about active and passive or driving and driven dimensions. Because we've got these driving dimensions, sometimes we just want to measure something without adding a dimension to it, and we'll use the measure tool for that. Mass properties can come in really handy when we're working with 3D items. When we combine mass properties with a part made out of known materials with known densities, we can calculate the total mass of the item as well as the center of gravity and things like that. So it's quite powerful when you start to need to do some more kind of engineering as opposed to just plain drawing. The rest of the evaluation tools are generally more advanced than what we need for our purposes. Well, this is probably a logical spot to stop for Lesson 2A. So why don't we leave it off here, and we'll see you in Lesson 2B. Thanks!